Today's going to open up with a great presentation from Roger Knecht, learning the benefits of skill enhancement training for business and individuals. We want to welcome Roger, and we want to thank our partners. Go ahead, next chart, please. We want to thank our sponsors, because without our partners and sponsors, this would not have been possible. We're supposed to be live in Savannah, and as you heard from Brent Stubbs' video introduction, we're here virtually today with them. We even promised Mayor Van Johnson we'd try to be in his backyard a year from now when the conditions are much better. But I want you to take note of the sponsors that are listed here, and please, thank them when you come across them for being a part of this great event. Next chart. Some simple housekeeping rules. This event is being recorded, as I said earlier. The links to the PDF files for each presentation, the recordings will be made available, and they will be emailed out to every person who registered for an event. Whether you attended it or not, you will get all the information, and it'll come probably at the end of this week or early next week as we put these all together. We've got 16 sessions to compile and send out. As you join today, you'll automatically be put on mute, okay? We ask you, as you start to think about questions during Roger's presentation, that you place those questions in the Q&A box, okay? You're all thinking, okay, where's the Q&A box? Well, when you mouse over the screen, you'll see that there's a navigation bar at the bottom, and the Q&A box is right down there. You just click on it, put your questions in there, and I will ask Roger those questions at the end of our session. If for some reason there are any unanswered questions, we'll have all those still responded to, and those will all be printed out and sent out with the recording and the PDF files for this presentation. For those of you who love to play in social media, and we had a great social media presentation this week earlier, please feel free to post to our hashtag CETI 2020. And we'd also ask you to join the CETI alumni group on LinkedIn. So you're probably asking yourself, okay, where do I find that? Well, when you go to the Zoom webinar chat box, I've already put the link in there for you. All you have to do is click on there. You must request to join the group. We cannot bend arms and make you join it, okay? But if you go in there and request it, somebody that looks like and sounds like a lot like the guy that's talking to you right now is pretty much gonna immediately approve you, and you can join the other 117 members that have joined this week alone. Great place to talk after CETI's over about collaboration for our business and industry partners, lessons learned, best practices. That's what a LinkedIn group is all about, and we hope that you'll participate in there with us. Next chart. I'd like to now introduce our presenter this morning. Roger Knecht currently serves as the president of Universal Accounting Center, where he oversees all national and international trainings offered by Universal Accounting Center to help those enrolled improve their accounting and tax careers or operations within their business firms. Roger is a favorite presenter at Universal's seminars worldwide, combining his wit and wisdom and sharing in the principles of business success. He has extensive experience in marketing and management with corporations of all sizes, large to small, and has successfully implemented the principles of growth that he's going to talk about today. It is my professional and personal pleasure to present to you Roger Knecht.
Well, hello everyone, and I'm excited to be here. I appreciate that introduction, Kevin, and I'm hoping that each of you have come prepared to take a few notes, as I expect to give you some information here that I believe you can use in your day-to-day operations. Now, something that I'd like to actually begin with is a poll, and this is specifically because I'd like to find out a little bit more about you as we begin, so that I may be able to tailor this conversation to each of you, and encourage you to take part real quickly to selecting which of these best describes you and what it is your listening for, what intent you came to this presentation. Now, as this is being collected, I do want to encourage you to recognize that I think there's a few things that apply to all of us. I think you can listen to this as an individual and maybe get some nuggets that will be applicable to you in your own profession and career and so forth. But otherwise, it looks like we've got a predominance of continuing education, which is exactly like myself. So let me go ahead and just share these results. You can see what we're looking at. There's a good number of people here that are from the continuing education sphere, which is exactly what I am. I'm a post-secondary school offering training for primarily accounting professionals. And so I can definitely relate to what it is you're sharing or representing today. Now, as for the presentation, let me just give you a little bit of background. The school itself started in 1979, and we began, as you would expect, offering traditional classroom training. The training that we offered was provided on 22 campuses around the United States, and each of these locations would teach the instruction in a very traditional classroom environment. However, as you would expect, it's evolved quite significantly, and I started back in 1999 with the organization. So being now that I'm the president, it's kind of an interesting evolution to see everything change over the years. But nonetheless, what we found is that we evolved from having classroom environments to where today we're entirely online, offering independent or home study courses. And this is somewhat significant because of perhaps what we're experiencing today, as so many people have needed to move in that direction. We've been here in this space for over a decade now. And the one thing I'd like to emphasize that's unique about our training is because it is home study, what we do is we offer with all of our enrollments at least 2 or 3 assigned coaches, and they are meant to help the individual go through the curriculum, the orientation counselor specifically to make sure that they are comfortable with the learning platform and how to actually go through the course itself, the academic coach, which is the instructor or tutor to help them learn the curriculum. And then in some of our courses, we have programs that are designed for the person who owns and operates accounting businesses, and therefore we have a business coach that's available. The story that I'd like to actually share here, which is part of our evolution, happens to be our interest back 20 plus years ago of wanting to leverage the VHS technology, the common home back then having a VCR in the house, and helping our students who were unable to attend a class or 2 or 3, giving them a video that they could go back, watch, and stay up to date with the current classroom studies and not fall behind. Well, that quickly evolved to having a library of our videos, to then selling the training in an online format, obviously evolving to DVDs, and then with the advent of the internet offering more streaming technologies, the days were gone of the dial-up network that you couldn't stream anything, to where now we're watching movies and enjoying ourselves in many ways online. And so that's where we're now hosting all of our curriculums on a learning management system, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So that's a little bit of background on me. So this is a second polling question, and then we're going to get started. The second question that I'd like to ask here is more related to, let's see here. What is the most predominant way that you currently offer your training? We've had experiences I just shared in a classroom setting. We've done online group and we've done independent. So this is something that, as I've watched over the last few months, a lot of people have had to adapt and change. We saw our own children who were in the traditional elementary and high school arenas having to go from classroom instruction to now they're at home with mom and dad helping them get online and go through the courses. Colleges changing, corporations changing how they're doing their meetings and so forth. So originally, pre-COVID, you can actually see here with the sharing, that is what most people were experiencing and offering. And I think that's only to be expected. But what I want to do is now help you see how you can now offer independent or home study training effectively, and in doing so, help people understand what they're going to be doing. So let's do this and get started. Online training, this is what essentially we're finding. We've found that our students, because of the online, have become a lot more engaged and involved with the study. They have been able to do it at their leisure, at their pace, and so the classroom has been able to adapt not to the slowest learning individual, but rather the individual can adapt to their study skills and pace and go through the program as they would choose to. We've got programs that are designed to be done, for example, in 4 weeks, where we find individuals completing them as quickly as 5 days. And that's simply because, especially with as you would expect, the quarantines, people have time available, and this is a quality way of spending that time. The other thing that's been very helpful is identifying a learning management platform, an LMS, that is engaged with the learner in such a way that it becomes fun and interactive for them to actually experience the training. That's been perhaps one of our key things that we've found helpful, because if the platform is something that they're not engaged with, that they don't enjoy logging into and experiencing, they'll avoid it because it's clunky and cumbersome, and so we do not want that. But the thing that I want to now focus on is the credentials. The work from home or the study at home credentials are going to have a lot more validity, and people are going to give them a lot more respect simply because of what's becoming now the new norm. And I would encourage you that as we discuss what I'm about to share, all of those of you who have classroom studies that pre-COVID were the norm are needing to actually look at how you can best adapt to this new online system and look at either doing a hybrid. Some of the local universities here in our area are actually announcing for fall that they're going to be doing a hybrid where they're literally offering one classroom in the week, and then the other day is going to be a remote learning environment. And so they're trying to do a hybrid type learning. This is something that's been taught for years. If you're familiar with Khan Academy, this was introduced perhaps a decade ago, and as such, it was intended that people would actually learn the curriculum that they needed online, and they were able to rewatch videos or reread the curriculum as needed to learn the information. But then they would go to the classroom environment where they would meet with the teacher to work through the assignments and get the tutoring and assistance that they needed to finish the curriculum, and then they would go back home and obviously go through the studies as necessary. This is helpful because it allows the individual who's a quick learner, a quick study, they can easily go through the curriculum at a pace that's comfortable and familiar to them, where the individual who's struggling with the content and may need the additional tutoring can slow down and go through it at the pace that they prefer. And this all brings us to job skills. Now, the reason why I bring up job skills here is because when I first started at Universal Accounting Center, my job was working with the Department of Workforce Services. It was also working with vocational rehab, and it was offering training to individuals that were in a job transition status. They were either underemployed or they were needing to change careers, and they needed this additional curriculum. And when they worked with the counselors and found that accounting seemed to be the right fit, Universal then was the right program. Rather than going through and getting a 2 or a 4-year degree, we were able to give them a fast track and help them get certified in that skill set. Well, job skills are obviously what we're trying to do here, most of us, is give individuals the ability to go out and find gainful employment and get paid what they're worth. And so what we need to do is consider from their point of view what they're looking for. What are they trying to get? And so as an organization, a post-secondary school offering training, what we have found is that a lot of these individuals look at training in 2 ways. This is more because of the younger generation, and more so because of just pure technology and the advent of lynda.com, YouTube, and so forth. And it's the difference between how-to instruction and videos and certifications, where you're getting the comprehensive topic learning that you're needing to say that you're proficient in an area of study or a skill set. So you may have experienced this yourself personally. I'm sure that all of you can remember when you Googled and YouTubed a how-to type video and you just wanted to learn how to do a specific task, a specific thing. Well, there's a lot of people today that instead of having to learn everything, choose to just kind of go headlong into something, and when they get to a stopping point where they don't know how to move forward, they'll just Google it, they'll just YouTube it. And this is a mindset that they have where they believe, well, when I have a need, I'll just address it or deal with it, and then I'll get back on task and continue on with what I need to do. Well, that's perfectly fine, but when you're looking at it from an employer's point of view or from a proficiency point of view, the certification is meant to say that instead of knowing just how to do A through B, and you need to now go figure out how to do C, and then you jump back in and do D, E, F, and then G, you have to go YouTube how to do G. We've trained and certified that you actually know A through Z. And this process is going to be very important. So that's the distinction that I've found very important as we're marketing and educating individuals to the programs that we offer as to how they ought to be considering what it is we provide. But the second part of this is the fact that we have found that in offering our training, that not only do we, but many institutions find that once the curriculum is done, they need to have experienced it or delivered it in a way that the student can now come back and use it as resource information and find the how-to elements within the course. This is saying that, yes, they've finished and passed the curriculum, they've done the final exams, but months from now, maybe years from now, they need to be able to reference back to that information and use it as a how-to guide at this point. It's perhaps something like maybe our older generation, if you're like myself, would remember holding onto our college textbooks and referencing them later in our career because they were at the time the how-to guide. Now, with regards to this, I do want to point out that we look at the information as being both topical and strategic. The training that we try to organize and offer, and what I suggest you consider organizing your curriculum to be, is both tactical. The people today want to know, how does this apply and how do I actually use this to do something in my career or on the job? And then strategic is the big picture, which is, how do I actually look at this from a management's point of view? How do I take what I have today and make it better? How do I leverage technology to make this more efficient? And that's what we're trying to do here is with our training is help distinguish between which is the tactical side of the training. We're giving you the how-tos and helping you feel confident in your skill sets. But then we want to give you the strategic, the ability to think through and understand what's going on within the training as to how it applies to the big picture. Now, this is where I think the what, the how, the why, where it all comes into play, because it's this. The what happens to be the I'm sure you remember the books, the Blank for Dummies, the yellow and black books. That's what this is. It's the task-oriented, do-it-yourself type instruction. When offering courses, one of the things that I think we experience is you've got your, let's say your 101, or excuse me, your 110 series class, your 210 series class, your 310 series class. When you're in a school environment, it makes sense that there's this linear evolution to learning the curriculums and becoming proficient in a course of study. But we've got to do a greater job as training institutions to incorporate into that instruction the how-to parts of it, how this actually is done, and then the management side, which is here's how we're going to try and make it, how this process has evolved over the last number of years. In the accounting world, this is how it plays out. We actually, in the accounting, try to help the person experience accounting longhand originally. We teach accounting where they actually do all the exercises with pencil and paper, and they're making all the entries just as you would in the old days of journals and ledgers. This is important, we feel, because this is about, over a decade ago, when we first introduced computers into our curriculum, into our studies, we found that the students, because of the software, were actually being dumbed down. When it came time to give the final exams, we actually saw that the final exam scores were decreasing because the person was now, through the computer, just becoming a data entry technician. They weren't learning the accounting model. They weren't understanding the correlation between debits and credits and how things were moving from journals to ledgers. And this was an important thing that they needed to have a sixth sense for. And to have that sixth sense, they needed to actually move the numbers around and experience how they evolved. In the software platform, a lot of the work is being done behind the scenes. You enter a number into a field and a lot of the entries and things are going on behind the scenes. Well, that's good and dandy in the sense that when you find employment and you're doing the work, it's important to know the software so that you can leverage the technology to your benefit. But we as a training institution are obliged to teach you the behind the scenes, the information that makes up what's going on behind the computer screen. And so we reverted back after about 2 years of incorporating into our home or into our studies the computer, and we separated the two classes. The first was specifically meant to teach the principles of accounting, the accounting model, if you will. And then only once they completely understood that and we tested and they passed that class, then did we introduce the software. The beauty of this course of study afforded us is the fact that we knew that once they understood the accounting model, they literally could use any software at this point because they understood what the system was doing behind the scenes. And in the case of in the computer software, which we were using at the time, which was QuickBooks, we were able to literally show them now how QuickBooks was the tool to do the job they already understood more efficiently. And they appreciated the software. No longer were they seeing it as a data entry type responsibility. They were using it as a tool to do the job that they were trained to do. And that was very helpful. So that brings me to how, the learning method. The classroom right now is something that a lot of people still experience, but becomes less common today just simply because of the universities shutting down, the schools shutting down. All of a sudden, everyone's been sent home. I threw on there YouTube simply to represent the how-to type curriculums that a lot of people like to just research and find the 5-minute short video on the how-to this, that, or the other. But what we're seeing is the learning method evolving from classroom to online or independent study. And this is where I bring up best practices. There are different learning styles, and I'm sure many of you within your own schools and institutions understand this, but I'd like to summarize it for all of us. And it's the recognition of the fact that we each have learning preferences. When teaching content, it behooves us as the instructors, as the training entity, the college, university, school, to try and address each of these in any topic we're teaching. We want to have the visual learner. That's something like you're experiencing right now with the PowerPoint presentation. It's, as a visual learner, it gives you something to contextually tie the information to, and you can then later on recall it more easily because of the images you associated with it. You might remember this screen, for example. The auditory is then the ability to hear as you are my voice, and you're able to listen and hear the intonations, you're able to hear my enthusiasm for this topic or another. And as instructors, we need to bring that energy to the presentations that we're giving because that energy helps people then retain the information because they could hear the emphasis provided. Now, one of the things that we have as part of this is the written and the writing. Well, this is important because we had the poll questions. It was interactive. The questions were ones that you had to read so that you could actually answer the question and participate at that level. But the reading is also something that you need to be doing in the sense that you've got the slide in front of you and you're having to read through it. You've got books, textbooks that you're having to read through. And some people actually learn very well that way. But the last happens to be the kinesthetic, which is to say touch. It's where you're actually physically doing something. Many people will say, just let me do it. Let me watch you do it. Let me then do it myself. You know, don't show me how to do it. The visual learner, let me experience it myself and I'll retain it. These elements need to exist in all of the trainings that we choose to offer today. And the challenge that we're experiencing as education institutions is as we move away from the classroom to the home study, how do you still engage individuals at a kinesthetic level when they're at home and they don't have necessarily things that they can be holding and touching and doing? And that's where you get to do experiments and you get to do exercises. You encourage them to go get things. I like to suggest that people write down and take notes because at least kinesthetically they're writing something and recording it, and it's complementing both the writing learners and the kinesthetic learners. Now in some of our training, we actually send out to the student materials that they're able to then use at home as they go through the exercises. And in the case of doing the curriculum, they're able to experience moving things around, and therefore it meets all of these. Now, I invite you right now to real quickly in your own notes, make a notation for you, which is the preferred method that you have as to how you like to study and learn. What is the thing that if you were to go through a class, you would be looking forward to and expect to see or experience for you to be able to leave the class having learned what you hope to experience? What is your preferred method of doing this? Honestly, I wish I would have done a poll question with this because I'd be curious to see what everyone chose. But the point is with all this in mind, I hope you can consider the trainings you're teaching today. And if you're evolving from a classroom to online, definitely consider each of these elements. If you are remaining in a classroom environment, question, do these experiences exist for each of your students? Are they having each of these elements in the training that you're providing? Now, with this in mind, I want you to clearly understand, well, actually, I'm going to do a quick tangent before I move on. Something that you might appreciate knowing, and it's listed there with the reading and writing learners, digital versus books. There's been a variety of studies that have shown that for casual reading, leisure reading, you can actually do a lot on an electronic device, the Kindles, the iPads, the phone, and we're all doing it today. We're all reading all day long on our phones. And so leisurely, that's a great way, but books still are the preferred method for our minds to retain information. Our minds do a great job of capturing a photo of a page, and if you're highlighting things or notating in the margin, you'll actually retain more information. And maybe you've experienced this where you can recall, okay, it's in this book, and I remember it's something I highlighted in the top left corner, and you can quickly skim through a book and find it where it's been highlighted. That retention is a lot more helpful when it's in a book. Now, you can obviously highlight something digitally and you can go through your notes and so forth. But the problem with that is the notes get stacked and it's like, I can't remember which, was it my 5th note or my 50th note? I can't recall. But on a book, it's top left corner, thumb through, there it is, and you can find it a lot quicker, but it helps with the retention. So I thought that might be a good thing to remember as you decide whether or not you want to move from maybe some of the book materials you have to only offering online PDFs and so forth, especially in a learning management system, an LMS. You may see a push to go that direction, but from a learning point of view, it might be best that the people, if nothing else, print off those PDFs and mark them up accordingly. All right, so let's go to soft skills. The whole goal here is this. As training institutions, we're trying to actually give 2 things, I believe, in our training. We're trying to give confidence, the ability for the learner to be able to say to the instructor, to a potential employer, to another business owner, I know what I'm talking about. I've gone through, done the training, I've been tested, I've been certified, a third party has verified I have the skill sets, the understanding, this is the certificate that I've received, the certification that I have, and all of that comes to give the individual confidence to say, I'm not just imagining or I'm not just embellishing that I know what I know, I in fact do know it. And then the second part of this with the confidence is truly the competency to do the work. I don't care what profession it is, what industry it is. At the end of the day, those are the 2 key elements. This is important for those of you who are listening in today who are out marketing the services that you offer simply because of the fact that the learner, the person who's evaluating and considering the programs that you have, need to see in the marketing materials, need to see in your course descriptions, something that indicates that they should, at the completion of that course, leave with a confidence and a competence to be able to do the work that they intended to now do completing your course. And I think that's something that we've really tried to incorporate into our training is an understanding of each of our curriculums need to offer this and need to provide it so that the person at the end can be very, very comfortable. Now, some people like to put this into a monetary perspective. And one of the things that I think is helpful is how can you articulate when a person has gone through training, how they will benefit from the training. And what you can do is you can actually go to the Department of Workforce Services and find what the average pay is for a certain position, a certain role, and you can see on typically an hourly, if not an annualized basis, what those earnings are. And you can literally ask, what the person is currently receiving today. Are they maybe making $10 an hour today and could be making 15? Are they making 15 and could make $25 an hour? Well, to put it into context and help you better sell your training and give it more a monetary value of what it can be, every dollar more per hour that that individual is eligible to earn with your certification and training is literally $2,080 more a year that they'll be earning from this year forward offering your services. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that as you're explaining your services, that you do it in a context that tells them when they go through the training, this is what they're going to be able to expect. Imagine if you said that they're going to earn $10 more per hour. Every year, they're going to earn $20,000 more per year. And once they've got the position and are done, it's not that the second year they lose that bump in income. That second year, they retain it. And the third year, they retain it. So going through the training or program that you may be offering that this person may complete could be $20,000 more this year and next year and next year. And you can see literally how it is an investment in themselves. So this brings me to business essentials and what are businesses looking for as training institutions? What should we be equipping our people to do so that they can go out into the workforce and be effective? And this is where I bring up a principle called MAP. It's mapping the business. Any company or organization can easily be broken down into these three areas of the business. It's the marketing and sales. It's how any company is in the process of going out and finding individuals, customers, whether it be B2B or B2C. The second is accounting. Accounting is anything typically kind of in a management level, but it's also cash flow. It's the financials of a company, but it's all the numbers that a business looks at. It's all the metrics that a company is watching. And those numbers are very, very important. Those are the reports that management's using to make business decisions. And so anything that's regarding here's how to manage and track an organization, it's typically in here that you're finding a lot of people that are more numbers oriented go, because it's beyond just the accounting. And then the last is production. It's once the client has agreed to the engagement, purchased the product or the service, it's now the responsibility of fulfilling that. And that's where you get into customer service. It's where you get into the job skills that the production or project management is, and it's the electrician, it's the carpenter, it's the mechanic, it's the lawyer, it's whatever the fulfillment is. It's that ability to do the workflow efficiently. And then in this, you'll find HR, simply because the greatest asset in the company is obviously the company's employees. And so HR typically falls into production, how everything is seamlessly moving together and communicating. So what we do is we, within our organization, when we offer our trainings and organize them, we do it in two ways. And this is something that I'd like to suggest to you. The two ways that I propose that you consider offering and marketing your services. The traditional is the catalog. Obviously, I pull up a course catalog of all the classes I can take and the curriculums that are available. I can take and organize these by industries or professions, and it's the classes that are associated with it. And here are the courses that I need to take to actually go through and do this. But the second thing that you want to do is offer, I think, a catalog where not just the class is listed, and not just it's organized based on industry or profession to say, if you wanted to be, in my case, an accounting professional, here are the accounting classes you need to take. What we want to do is we want to look at it through the employer's eyes, and we want to organize this information to say, what part of the company do you want to get involved in? Do you want to be involved in the marketing and sales part of where you're going out and you're through, let's say, internet marketing or advertising or public relations? You're on the front side of the business and you're trying to find new customers, bring them in, nurture them through a sales funnel, have them purchase and sell or buy your product or service. This can be frontline type sales with retail and such. Is it the accounting side? Just in the business, do you want to know the numbers of the business and you want to understand what the numbers are in the industry and how to work with the banking institutions and so forth, the lending institutions? Or is it the production? You want to be someone that's great with practice management, product management, project management softwares, or you wanting to be proficient at a specific skill? if that's where you want to be focused, then that's where you need to be. But I'll tell you right now, as a business owner, if someone were to come to me and say that they are exposed to and have had taken classes in marketing and sales, the accounting to understand the business model of how the business actually runs and operates, and production to say that they're familiar with now how to deliver that product or service efficiently and profitably, that employee is of more appeal to me than anyone else, simply because in most instances, the trainings that one experiences is siloed to one of these three areas, and they're not well-rounded enough to participate in an organization in its full capacity. Now, this is important to me also because in many instances, as a post-secondary school for accounting professionals, more than a third, in fact, more than half of our students have traditional accounting training with a bachelor's or master's degree in accounting. They have experience, 10, 15 years of experience. But where they struggle is they've never received, let's say, the marketing and sales training. They end up working in an accounting firm, not an accounting department of a company, but an accounting company, an accounting business, accounting service. And they can't contribute as they would like to go out and find more accounting clients. They can't contribute in the business model because, yes, they understand accounting, but they don't understand how an accounting business works. And so this is a good example of how a well-rounded individual needs to have each of these three areas. And I suggest to you, those of you who are listening that actually are involved in your institution's organization of the curriculums offered and how you're presenting it to the potential student, consider how to actually use the mapping principle to apply your catalog organization. You have your classrooms, you have your professions or industry groupings as to what classes they're going to need to take in that context. But then also consider then this map philosophy of, to be well-rounded, you need to take some marketing and advertising and public relation type classes. You need to take some business management classes. You need to take some educational classes as to the product or service you're doing. I don't care if a person's a mechanic, an electrician, a carpenter, a lawyer, all of them need to experience this mapping philosophy in the studies they take. So this breaks it down at a way to help you kind of visually see this. The short term are the employee level. So if you're working with employees, these are the things that they need to know in each of these areas. But at a management level, those of us who are offering curriculums and trainings for management individuals, we want to focus on these areas. The nothing happens till you make your sell. That's obviously focusing on the day-to-day focuses to find marketing strategies that bring in customers, cash flow, or things to understand where cash is coming from and where it's going, payables, receivables. Pour on the communication. Communication is to ensure that within the organization, is it being clearly explained at the sales level what the customer can expect, at the production level, delivery, and here's the chance to over deliver, but if they've oversold, that's not possible. In the management world, what we're dealing with though is it a good deal for both parties? We're looking at the margins. We're trying to understand, is what being sold profitable? Are we actually able to meet the customer's needs? In the accounting area, management needs to understand the business. Do they have the skill set to at least look at a financial report and understand what's going on with regards to the revenues, the expenses, and what's becoming the profit for their departments? And then improving the internal process. All of us understand that with technology, we need to be looking at how we can do things more efficiently. And that's where so many of us offer trainings in programs, technologies, software, all these different things that are tools to utilize to help us do our jobs more efficiently. So as those converge, that's where a company's profit is. And we want to actually help our employees. We want to help our graduates move so that they can actually contribute in all three of those areas. And when considering how we counsel or advise individuals, whether they're looking at career changes or career opportunities, we're looking at how can we take them from where they are today to where they could be in the future and providing that path to accomplish it. This is how we organize our programs here, just to kind of visually give you an idea. We've got 2 programs in the marketing. We've got in the accounting arena, a handful of programs that we offer in the production. We've got 2. And all of these are designed to actually help them see a catalog version of what they're going to be going through and have access to as training, as well as an application way of seeing how this will actually help them in their careers. I do have an offer just for those of you listening to learn more of how this actually applies in the world of business and how this can actually apply in your setting. If any of you listening would like more information, there's a book that we have that's called In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable. And it addresses this principle of MAP, and it will actually help you realize of all the classes you're offering, how you can best organize these so that you can actually in your catalogs put them into this format and see how they actually apply or help your students, your potential students, see how these things apply in their careers. So with that in mind, just a quick summary. There is a distinction today, a very big distinction between how-to, which is the short, quick YouTube type videos, the do-it-yourself type things, and certifications, the tested, certified individual who actually understands the entirety of a process. The best practices is to provide training in a format that people can learn and retain the information. Generally speaking, there's a predominant one for each person, and generally speaking, most of us have 2 or 3 we prefer. And then it's using this principle of MAP to, as an organization, organize our curriculums in a way that if an employer is looking at what classes they ought to send their employees to, or an individual is considering what they need to be doing to further their career, we can cluster our curriculums, our catalogs, to show here's what you need in order to be a complete, a fully trained individual in any industry or profession. And I hope that this has been enlightening to you to understand how, as you offer training, you can apply the principles that we here at Universal Accounting Center do to help accounting professionals understand what they can be doing to be the best they can be as accounting professionals in the career. So with that, I'm going to now just kind of ask a polling question here and see, with regards to your programs, what you're going to be doing more of. What is it that you're thinking you're going to have to offer now because of this whole COVID situation, and maybe are forced to do something you weren't prepared to do for the fall, let's say, or what, maybe just hearing what we've discussed, feel that there might be an opportunity for you to maybe teach differently or train differently. I'm amazed. I'm quite intrigued by all of the participants going on here. This is quite interesting. After this conference, you'll be offering more in what category? And I'm excited to share this when we get all the results in. This is quite impressive. You'll remember when we did the first polling question, it asked prior to COVID what everyone was doing. It was classroom instruction. That's the predominance of where people would traditionally want to go to learn, and traditionally what they would go to in order to offer it. And here's what we've got right now. I've got a few more people that are selecting. Let me go ahead and turn this off and share with you the results. And it's clearly online group and individual live trainings. And it's very similar to what we're experiencing here today. It's the chance that someone can instruct like we're doing here now. And quickly you're going to see, I'm going to turn this over to Q&A and see what questions you also have with Kevin's help. And with that in mind, experience exactly what everyone here is selecting that they would love to actually offer. So let's go ahead then and open this up to some questions and answers. Kevin, what would you have there for us from the group?
Okay, just a reminder, in our Q&A box, when you scroll to the bottom, that's where you can place your questions. I do have 2 questions that I'm gonna kick off here with Roger. And it's funny. This is a question that I had jotted down earlier, and then your polling question right at the end actually covered it. But I saw what the results were from that polling question. But in this new norm that you talked about, do you see that causing a long-term shift to live online, or do you see that? Do you see that crawling back into in classroom because of what's going on in our country and the uncertainty that we're still facing?
Great question. I'm going to answer it 2 ways. First way is it depends on the profession, and I'm going to illustrate that real quickly. My daughter happens to be in a cosmetology school, and for 2 months, the school was closed and no one could go in and actually have their hair done. And as a cosmetology student, she didn't have the ability to get the training she needed, the hands-on experiences of doing the hair cutting and the hair dyeing and all those other things she was being trained in. And so this was all being done remotely. She was actually for a 2 months period as a cosmetologist going through and doing online trainings. And admittedly, you cannot get the experience you need in an online environment as a cosmetologist to do the work you need to do in that setting. And so admittedly, it's a short-term thing. It's going to quickly revert back to hands-on. I would say that the same is true for like a mechanic. You're not going to learn how to work on a machine from watching a screen. At some point, you've got to get your hands dirty and you've got to go do the work. And so there's so many professions that literally are hands-on. I think all of us would admit that at some point we would expect that our surgeon has done work on a human body as opposed to just watching videos. You want them to work on the cadavers and then the real people, and you need them to have that experience before you're going to say, yeah, you can open me up. So there are a number of professions that I think just because of force, I mean, the institutions and the individuals needed to still continue studying. And so we quickly, part of this pandemic, quickly reverted to, well, let's just stay engaged. Let's not turn everything off. Let's stay engaged and let's move to an online platform and continue as best we can here. So first question, or first part of this question, I'm going to answer by saying it does depend on the profession. But the second part of this is going to be where I think, yes, I believe we've learned and adapted and understand that we can teach effectively numerous topics in an online platform, and really question, do we have to go back to the classroom for this experience? I'll give you a good example. As a training institution, you'll recall that we offered classroom instruction for years, since 1979 up until the mid-2000s, or about 2010, let's say, we had classrooms. Well, when we took all of our instruction and provided it in an online platform, it cut in half the amount of time that was needed for instruction. When you do a live classroom, you do roll call, you have the pleasantries of starting the class, you've got people that socialize, you have questions that come up that honestly are going to be answered in the curriculum, and the questions either go off onto unnecessary tangents or the questions themselves are asking something that's coming and there was no need for the question because it was going to be addressed. Well, we found that a classroom that literally took 3 hours, our classes were traditionally in the evenings from 6 to 9 and in the mornings from 9 to noon. Well, those 3-hour classes, we could honestly teach the curriculum in an hour to an hour and a half. Well, it's better for the student. It's less time to learn the curriculum. It's better for the instructor, less diversions, less non-essential things. They can just get down and teach the curriculum. So I do feel that there are a lot of institutions that have been forced to provide online training and have found that it is actually better this way for both the instructor and the student. And so I do think that there's going to be, in the public school systems and the universities, more people doing independent or home study type classes.
I would agree, but I think the one constant that has to be there at the base of that is that regardless what you're teaching, you have to have a credentialed instructor who's credentialed and current in that credential for which they are teaching, okay? The days of well, Professor Gizmo is a tenured professor in IT and he's been teaching IT for, 20 years. Johnny's going to raise his virtual hand and say, hey, Professor Gizmo, are you certified in A+? Are you current in A+? And when he says, well, no, Johnny, I'm a tenured professor, Johnny is turn him off. Well, right there.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I agree with you, but I think that happens in the classroom today anyway. If you're in a classroom, you can call your professor on the carpet, if you will. What I would agree with you on, though, to your point, is I have a niece who is a elementary school teacher, and what she has found is with this, the school district has required all of the teachers to begin giving instruction online. And the more senior teachers in the school who have been teaching, let's say 15, 20 years, they are very much set in their ways as to delivering the curriculum in a classroom environment. They're very comfortable. They've got all the materials. Their classrooms are decorated and organized accordingly. And for them to move to an online curriculum has been a huge challenge because they don't know the technology. They don't understand how to actually organize the information. And it's difficult for them to teach that curriculum in a virtual world. The younger students, my niece being in her early 20s, a new teacher out of college, she's more familiar with the technology. She's more familiar with the learning methods because she experienced them herself recently in college. And she commented that the younger teachers, say 30, 35 and younger, are quickly able to adapt their curriculum to an online platform and make it useful and effective because they've experienced it and know how to utilize it. The instructors, the teachers that are 45 and older, they're struggling. It's taking them longer to transition to the online platform. It's taking them longer to figure out and become comfortable with that platform. So to your point, you've got to be very much on your toes with current technologies as an instructor. You've got to know the new things, and you've got to be able to keep it relevant for your students. Online studies, there's a lot of pluses to it, but it can be a drawback for an individual that's not familiar with technology and is open to change.
Right. And like, for example, we're on Zoom, and that's the platform that we use for our live on instructors. It's probably the most intuitive platform that's out there. And I would suggest to our audience, if you're trying to figure out, okay, what's a good platform that's easy to get into and the least growing pains, I would highly recommend Zoom. There are some that use Microsoft Teams as well. It all depends on what will also match up to your learning management system the easiest.
Well, let me jump in there on that because I think there's something important to understand, and I believe most of our listeners will appreciate this. The Zoom platform, what we're experiencing right now, is great for, let's say, team collaboration. Remember when you're in college and you're set up in groups or teams to do group assignments and so forth. This is great for a collaborative type thing. We're all able to see one another. We can discuss things, share our screens, and go through and do things. The problem that exists with this platform, where a learning management system really is designed to meet the deficiencies of this, is normally what you can do in a classroom environment is everybody now is more interested in bite-sized chunks. We're conditioned today because of Facebook and YouTube where we prefer, let's say, a 5-minute video. Well, this is an hour-long video, and what we want to do is we want to take a 5-minute chunk, learn a principle, and then we typically want to read some context about it, and then next we want to be tested on it with a quick quiz of some sort before moving on to the next topic. And so you're looking at bite-sized chunks, and so a learning management system affords you as the instructor the ability to teach a concept in a very concise way, put it out as a particular video, put some complementary information, and then do a quick test. And unless they're passing that quiz, you don't go on to the next 5-10 minute point. And so you're able to do it in talking points. And so that's where this Zoom environment isn't conducive to a classroom where you're expecting a person to learn content. This is a great meeting platform. It's wonderful for collaboration. It's excellent for group discussions. But for learning purposes, you want the chunks that are afforded you in a learning management system. You're also able to check off where you left off. You're able to document, maybe make notes. The learning management system is truly the platform that is better formatted for that type of instruction.
Yeah, well, I apologize if I came across like we use Zoom as our LMS. We don't. Okay. We have a Moodle-based learning management system that we get from a Fortune 100 level vendor, and grades, attendance, assignments, all those things that you talked about are all there.
Yeah,
it is projected using Zoom. Okay. Yeah. And there's all kinds of tools out there that schools, might consider using. I just brought that up as a case that we use. A couple questions that we've got coming into the box here. I want to thank those for you guys putting them in there. First question from Christy is, how do you help teach youth that just graduated from high school that were in special education needing extra help with learning online?
Oh, great question. I'm going to go back to those 5 methods of learning. Um, Special education, especially where you deal with, let's say, autistic individuals. I mean, there's a number of issues that you're faced with in there, and those 5 learning methods help you address them. It's finding which of them are they best educated by, which is the preferred method that they benefit from, and tailoring a curriculum to meet that particular need. So if it's reading, it's got to be more heavily involved on the reading. If it's more visual, you've got to look at how you can do more visually engaged things to suck them in, to keep their attention. And until you know which of those is the preferred learning method of the majority or individual, you're going to miss the boat, because you're going to lean on what you prefer doing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you prefer doing, it's what they need. So that's definitely my answer to that. It's the easiest way to maybe answer it. If they haven't already had an assessment done to determine which is their preferred learning method, that needs to be done. And then based on those results, you can then direct them or guide them as to, well, then these are the trainings that you'll best benefit from because it's delivered in your preferred method. That's my answer to that.
All right. I'm going to skip one down because I'm going to ask you to move, go into your slide deck and throw up your, we've got somebody asking for you to throw up the information on your book again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you don't mind doing that. There you go. Okay. So everybody can look at that. I'm going to go to my next question here. What type of interacting teaching activities have you found to work well to engage your students?
I'm not sure what the question is actually asking. So when it's saying interactive, obviously there's games, there are things that you can do in groups, there's exercises that you can do where the person has to do a project. So interactive, I don't know. If they're asking software and so forth, that's where I would say maybe it's your learning management platform. That's where maybe in your learning management system, you're actually doing drag and drop type exercises, different things along those lines. Not knowing exactly what they're trying to ask, I'll answer it this way. Anytime you can get the person to where they have to physically use their hands in an activity, that's where you're getting the interaction. The whole idea is the kinesthetics, it's the touching. And so if you have not found how in teaching something to get them to pick up and move something somewhere, then I think you're missing the opportunity for them to use that experience to retain that information. And so if you have a very specific thing, let me take history, for example. History, you might all remember that there was a time perhaps in your learning where you had to learn geography and you had to take countries or states and you had to put them in where they go in a map. So you had kind of the United States, let's say, graphed out, and it was hollow. And you had to take the states and you had to put them as puzzle pieces in. Well, the reason why you did that is it was kinesthetic. They were having you visually, but also kinesthetically put something together, and you were able to retain and remember the map of that. The auditory person, they remembered it because they probably learned a song as to the names of the states. And maybe if you remember, there might have been a song that had the state with the capital. These are all ways that you're learning, but the hands-on, the kinesthetic, if there's something you're really trying as an instructor to hit it out of the park, you've got your visual, you've got the student doing an exercise, they've got something they're and it's not an assignment where you're doing paper and pen, it's actually an activity where they're doing something to put something together physically. If you can incorporate that into the exercise or into the learning, you've really taken your training to another level.
We've got a couple instructors that work for us, and they do group activities with bingo or Jeopardy-like type games. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you make learning fun, and it starts to look like edutainment, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly the younger audience of the day, okay. seems to respond very well with that. And when I can tell you that when we interview instructors, we ask them, what do you do beside PowerPoint? I mean, everybody's a PowerPoint ranger today. What do you do besides PowerPoint to make things interesting in your class? The other thing we ask them is, it's night one, day one, your class. What are the couple things that you're going to tell your students that you want to tell them that's going to have them want to stay and be a student in your class? Okay. I think it's that involvement of the instructor that's important. The other thing that we found is that if you're just an instructor and you're not willing also to be a mentor, trainer, coach, you're missing out on an opportunity to connect with a lot more students today, because the students just don't want to know the what of the topic. They want to know the why, and moreover, how are they going to see that in that career pathway that they're training for? Okay, I'm sure you see the same thing as you're teaching in your part of the world, Roger. That's something that I think is important to the learning model, because let's face it, there's a lot of young ones today that haven't had any mentor in their lives at all.
Well, let me address that on a few levels real quickly. So any instructor, I think, quickly learns, and when I say quickly, it takes time. You get a groove. You figure out which is your teaching method, and that's where you'll find some that subscribe to the method of tell. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you, and then I'm going to tell you what I taught you. There's different methodologies that a lot of us will subscribe to, but the thing that I want to really help people understand is video is such a key element of training today. You've got to be able to, in a short bit of information or a short period of time, give a chunk of information and deliver it succinctly. And if you can do that, you're modern with technology today. Second, you've got to be comfortable in front of a camera. You've got to feel comfortable talking to an inanimate object. This is important. You've got to stay engaged. You've got to have the energy. Too often I've been involved in conversations where, because the person is speaking to a computer, they're monotone, they're not engaged, they're actually not knowing where to look or have eye contact. All of these things can really detract from the learning. And so we have to embrace technology. And as an instructor, you might be great in a classroom, but you've got to really learn how to then leverage these other environments. I've got a colleague of mine, he's been teaching classrooms and doing group trainings for years. And when this whole COVID thing started, he worked at a university, and the university was requiring him to now put all of his curriculum in video context and deliver it in bite-sized chunks. And he couldn't do it. He just didn't know how to do it. It was outside of his flow. He didn't know how to actually bite-size it down. Great in front of the classroom, great in front of an audience, couldn't do it in this format. And so that's something that you have as an instructor, you've got to be able to do and do well.
I would agree. I will tell you that anybody that we have teaching for us live online, they have to do a practice teach where we get to, critique them and do that. And then we continue to evaluate them while they are teaching. There's a standard evaluation form that we use for that, because if you're not careful, it becomes mundane, and you got to almost treat every class like it's the first class, first night, and keep the enthusiasm going. I'll pause here and see if we have any more questions coming in. Just a reminder for those that you wanted to know about the free copy, there's an email in the chart that Roger had up right there. When we send you all your copies of this briefing, you can do that, but you can send an email and the subject line, and that will get you your free copy of In the Black. Also, we've had one person already request and has been approved into the CETI alumni group. So we're at 118 members. So I'd ask you to consider joining that group sometime in the near future. I do not see any other questions coming in for either area. So what I'd like to do is, please,
As you wrap this up, Kevin, at one point I'd like to give a final thought, so keep going.
okay. Oh, follow-up. Somebody just asked me in a follow-up question, okay, would I be able to share the evaluation I use for online instructors? Yes, we've got a, I want to say it's someplace between 3 and 4 pages of what we fill out. And Nancy, if you just send a thing to us, we'll get with you offline and share that with you. That's a culmination of doing training in the Army for a bunch of years and doing training with ProTrain for about 10 years. And it's a great way to evaluate your instructors, other than, you know, the evaluations that, you know, the surveys you can send your students. Some of those are good. Some of those, depending if they're not, you know, if they have a cross to grind with the instructor, might be a way to vent a little bit. But we can surely share that with you. Roger, you had a comment?
Yeah, just real quickly, I just wanted to say in summary that I think as training institutions, we've got to do a better job of helping the people that we're working with, the people that are considering our programs, the people that are going through our training, to understand the difference between the how-tos, the tactical that we're teaching them, and the full-on certification programs, the big picture, the strategic side of what we're teaching. And this applies both in a profession and industry level, but that's where, again, I want to bring up the map. I think sometimes what we do is we certify and we pat someone on the back and put them out into the real world, congratulating them. And what really happened is we only gave them a sliver of what they're ultimately going to experience out in the real world. And I bring MAP in to share. I think it's in our best interest that every student needs to have at least some business context to their studies so that they can understand that business is made up of cash flow and so forth. I think every employee needs to understand the production and the importance of customer support and customer satisfaction. Every employee needs to understand marketing and sales to the extent that with that bigger picture, I think they're more valuable as an asset to any employer. The other thing that I just wanted to hit home is the fact that as in training institutions, as instructors, we need to be more conscious of what we're doing in these areas that people learn in. So often I think we gravitate to what we prefer to teach and how we prefer to teach, and we neglect to teach the student in our program or in our classroom the way they need to be taught. And so if we can just look at our curriculum, next time you teach the class, have in the back of your mind, am I helping the visual learner, the auditory, the reading and writing, the kinesthetic type person? Are those experiences in there for them to learn and retain the information? And so with that, I'm glad that we've all considered new ways to do our jobs better, and I appreciated the questions. I invite you to consider being an affiliate of us. We've worked with colleges, universities, as I shared at the beginning, with government entities in training individuals. We have programs ourselves that we'd be happy to discuss what you can do to make those an offer for you. And I thank you for the time. This has been a wonderful opportunity. ProTrain, it's been fun. Kevin, you've been a good host, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you again for a great presentation, and please consider joining the CETI alumni group. And just a reminder that the next session today will be the Business and Industry Workforce panel that starts at 1 o'clock. It has representatives from medical, technology, workforce, and some specialized training capability leadership that I think you'll find very entertaining and educational this afternoon. That starts at 1 o'clock, and Joe Perez will be our moderator for that group, and I hope you all consider joining. Hope you have a great day and stay well. Once again, thanks for a great presentation. You all have a fantastic day.